the saying goes is that hackers aren't hacking in like you see in Hollywood, right? The black hat hoodie. They're simply impersonating the people that you already have in your organization. And they're just simply logging in with the credentials that often your own employees are giving them, whether that's a password they scrubbed off the net or they've been tricked into giving up into a malicious ran web portal that scrubbed both their credentials and their MFA.
Welcome to We Give an F12, the podcast about IT, managed services, and cybersecurity that makes your business more productive and secure.
People maybe don't do the hygiene or worry about the awareness training or get the MFA because they think they've got the tool. They think they've got the antivirus or the endpoint protection or the whatever, the thing. Can you provide like some real world examples without naming names of the companies of where you've seen them think, hey, you know what, we've got adequate protections. We bought the thing, we have the software running, and it's let them down. It wasn't enough.
Yeah, so we have a full incident response team where that happens on a weekly basis, where our team is responding to clients that are impacted by these types of breaches, where they thought they picked, Gartner's magic quadrant, used by the Fortune 500, and we see these large organizations getting popped using some of the best in class or what they think is the best in class tools, but they fail. And it's not a failure just on the tool; it's a failure on process, the procedures, the ability to respond quick enough. And you add humans into the mix, that fundamentally slows everything down, especially when there's decisions having to be made if you don't have a tight operating chip. I'd also say that because the industry doesn't have any ability to validate that these tools are doing what they're supposed to be doing, you're left with assuming that the tools are working. And there's so many organizations out there that are not doing penetration testing. And I'm not just saying your traditional penetration testing where you're using a human-led penetration test. I'm talking about looking at your entire attack surface, externally and internally, to see where you have gaps. And do that at a rapid pace and continuously. Because guess what? How you were yesterday is different than how you are today. And so this is imperative as you start to mature your cybersecurity practice.
I think there's two things. I'd like to give a framework, which is not my framework, but I think it's an easy one to understand and how you should think about investing resources for your kind of security and posture program. And then two, an anecdote to back up what Calvin was saying on the typical enterprise stack, the really expensive stack, and why exactly they fail and don't work. Because there's one really key point. So first off, no matter what size your company, I think NIST's kind of 5 pillars of security are a pretty simple way. So first, you have to have visibility. Well, MSPs are awesome at providing visibility because they have to instrument your machines and your users to know what's running, update things, and charge you. So that's a great way. The second is really attack surface reduction or network hardening. It's how can things like MFA, things like least privilege, things like external vulnerability scanning and a patching program. It's all about reducing. And if you thought about this from a physical standpoint, if you have to protect a compound, it's making sure you don't have too many ingress and egress points, especially ones that are unmonitored or unprotected, right? It's really simple for an on-prem thing. You also have to do the same in the cloud. The third is where I think our industry is kind of, frankly, tricked everyone, which is threat detection. And I'll explain it this way. In a professional operation, if you were to be a bad guy, you would have an operator. Think of them as the red team person that knows all the tools. You had an analyst. They would know the target and likely know at least enough of the tools. And they'd probably be really good at networking and how to move through an environment to find what they want. And then you have a software engineer, really big brain stuff. They're reverse engineering applications. They're trying to find code execution techniques or exploits. And this is not to knock that community because I love them and you need them. I run a software company. But software guys on the offensive side make backdoors, they make exploits. Operators and IT guys try to live off the land with everything the operating systems give you and use other tools and can move
Right.
around generally better. Most of the tools are overly focused on catching malware. Right. So what you really need is this beautiful marriage of tradecraft detection, which I would call the ability to put privileged identity in context. Like, how is a privileged high consequence identity using, what are they doing? Because it's the decision tree is real simple. It's either bad or it's legit IT. And that's what that traditional expensive stack completely has failed on doing. Fourth pillar is response. I think NIST more means after the fact. IR, I mean it within 20 minutes or 10 minutes or less. Like,
Get on
saw
it.
alert,
Yeah.
triage, took action to take the bad guy out and disrupt their operation. Then 5 is right of boom. That is, you got to breach. How can you reduce the blast radius? So things like, backup, disaster recovery, IR, insurance, things like that. So those 5 categories I think are really important. Case in point, on a monster spend, probably an overinvestment, and in a stack I would totally stay away from if you're shopping. And it's not because there aren't a lot of great cybersecurity professionals there. I think it's just a misconception.
And I think you highlighted a point that I want to make sure the audience really hears is you can buy the tool, but if you don't configure it,
Oh yeah.
you're leaving yourself exposed. Like the fact that this happens, and I think this is really a challenge for IT teams in general, is ensuring that you don't have that configuration drift, or better yet, you have an ability to detect when it goes out of its desired golden state. And this happens time to time again, and often how we actually pick up new clients into our own business is simply because what they thought was working for a client stops working. MSP let them down, and now they're like, well, we had a breach, we got hit because something happened. We even had the right tools, or thought we did, and now they're coming and looking for a better, more responsive managed service vendor. This is a key area in the IT industry that needs to be solved for, but it's only solved with making sure that you have the diligence in your own organization to catch those types of events. And so don't buy the tool if you're not going to have the right people to configure it and maintain it.